We're almost at the year end, and a lot of our matriculants are going to be going into university or even entering the workforce if they are lucky enough to get into a job. But there are a lot of money lessons that teenagers and school leavers need to be taught. And in this episode of the Wealth Nation podcast, I'm giving you 4 lessons that your teenager needs to know.
Welcome to the Wealth Nation podcast, a podcast for every mother, daughter, grandmother, sister, and wife, and the men who are smart enough to tune in. The Wealth Nation podcast brings you all you need to know about investments, business, property investments, personal finance, and all around financial wellness. Here is your host, Yolanda Rose.
Well, thank you for joining me today. I am Yolanda. I am a financial advisor and a wealth coach, and it is my goal on this podcast to give you easy, actionable tips, content, and strategies that you can use to manage your money well and build generational wealth. Thanks for choosing the Wealth Nation podcast. If you're new here, please subscribe on whichever app that you're listening on, or if you're listening on our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell notification. So whenever you do hear, also whenever we do put out some new content, you're going to be the first to hear about it. And if you guys are not on iTunes, please leave me a review on my Facebook page. What do you think about this podcast? I'd love to know. Check out our Facebook page. It's Financially Fabulous Females. The Wealth Nation podcast is sponsored by Audible. Audible is a seller and producer of spoken audio entertainment, information, and educational programming on the internet. Audible sells digital audiobooks, radio and TV programs, and audio versions of magazines and newspapers. For a 30-day free trial of Audible, go to www.financiallyfabulousfemales.com/audible. So this week in finance, I'm not really talking about a financial definition or some kind of financial jargon. I want to talk to you a little bit about what happened yesterday or a couple of days ago, depending on when you are listening to this podcast. So we had 2 international ratings agencies downgrade South Africa, which is awful news for the country. So with the downgrade, the rating agencies just lets the world know that our sovereign credit rating has been downgraded to junk status. But what happened was that the 2 major rating agencies, which are Moody's and Fitch, they basically lowered the country's credit ratings. And both our outlooks on both these rating agencies are on a negative. And I know it's mainly concerned with the country's sovereign debt and the sovereign credit standing, but it impacts us. And I know you think it's nothing for us to worry about because it's never going to impact me as an individual, but that's not true. So with a downgrade, government basically has to pay more money to service its debt costs. And if you listen to I think a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about the fiscal cliff, and we found that South Africa, the money that the country is collecting, it's not enough to meet just the interest costs, not alone touching the capital. All right, so now we have this downgrade. The cost of borrowing for us as a nation is increasing. What it means is South Africa is going to be paying more towards debt, and they already don't have enough to pay the interest portion of the debt. So if they don't have enough, they're going to spend a lot less on social initiatives, on infrastructure, on education, on healthcare. Now, in order for the country to meet all of the various budgetary requirements, the funding has to happen somewhere. Government will have to increase revenue through higher taxes. But the effects of junk status don't just end at borrowing. A downgrade will most likely cause the rand to depreciate, which would make the importation of goods like oil a lot more expensive. This makes everything else a lot more expensive. And then when the expense of everything increases, inflation creeps in because things like oil and in some cases food, we have to buy them. And when inflation rises above the nominated threshold, the South African Reserve Bank steps in. They step in to increase the repo rate. So when the repo rate goes up, the individual cost that we have to pay for our bond, for our car, for our various consumer debt, that grows up. And when lenders, as banks, see a greater risk in borrowers defaulting, they increase premiums to compensate for the higher level of perceived risk. So South Africans are going to find it harder to qualify for new loans, to secure credit. Things are going to be more expensive for us, meaning that loans will be less of an option when finances are stretched. Now, what can you do to prepare for this? One, you got to start paying down as much as the consumer debt that you have. You have to get rid of it. If it has to come to it, you got to downgrade your lifestyle. Give up the extras. Give up the DSTV. Give up the gym, and all that fancy stuff. Just try and be as basic as you can because you're preparing to head into the storm. South Africa hasn't even hit the eye of the storm yet, mainly because we don't have a plan and government is so undecided. So you got to cut your consumer debt. Don't get into any more debt. I mean, if you've been planning to buy a home and you see interest rates are low, then go ahead and buy the home because you've had this long-term plan. You have money saved up for transfer fees, deposit, and whatever it is. But don't on the spur of the moment go and buy a property without even planning and preparing and going for 100% bond. Guys, it's going to get real tough. I want you to be prepared and thank you for listening to this podcast. And hopefully with this podcast, I can keep you prepared on what's coming because it's honestly going to get ugly.
Raising financially savvy children involves teaching them a variety of skills, from budgeting to planning to earning and saving. Besides giving them an understanding of the value of a rand, it prepares them for real-world finances. Financial literacy is a vital skill, and it is never too early to teach your kids about money. Many parents wonder how they can teach their kids about money and where to find age-appropriate resources. You can now purchase the Financial Literacy for Kids workbook, which is aimed at primary school kids. It's now available at www.financiallyfabulousfemales.com. This workbook provides you with 12 lessons, activities, lesson plans, discussion points, and quizzes that you can use to test your kids' knowledge. Shop now at www.financiallyfabulousfemales.com.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Tuned In. Now back to the show.
All right, so let's talk about our kids, our teenagers for a little bit. And today on the show, we're talking about 4 money lessons that every teenager needs to know. Now, kids need to know about money. And teenage years may be the first time kids start earning their own money. And if your kids are in our kids course, Financial Education for Kids 101, we've shown them already how they can earn money, little pocket money, little activities around the home on how they can earn money, how to manage their money, how to invest that money. We're teaching kids all about that. But a lot of the teenagers is when they become a teenager, that's the only time they're going to start earning money and becoming more responsible with money. So we want to establish these good practices now while they are in these moldable years. Obviously, the younger we start, the better. But they need to learn these lessons. And I find personally with my clients, a lot of the more savvier clients of mine, they tend to be more transparent with their kids when it comes to money. The kids know, what are the bills to be paid. And I find, well, luckily I got a handful of clients that really take an active approach of empowering their kids when it comes to the household finances. And you find that parents that don't really have a good grasp of their own finances, they're not ready to share this with their kids. To have that level of transparency, I think maybe you have to have your finances in order before you can show these to your children and start teaching your children. And as much as we teach them with kids and teenagers, they're observing as well. So we got to be practicing what we preach when we approach our kids and we're teaching them about anything, including money. So the first thing that they need to know, that teenagers need to know, is how to create a budget. Because when they know how to do that, they have the ability to track their money before they even start earning any sort of pocket money. Now, if a teen has cash flow from a part-time job or if you're giving your teen an allowance, set up a budget that documents how much of money is coming in and how much of money is designated for saving and spending. Now, parents can show their teens their own budgets. If you don't have a budget, start budgeting so you can share these skills with your kids. So, the budgeting process can really help to have a teenager be more responsible for funding part of their lifestyle to help teach them the value of money. And a budget, when you go through that budgeting process and allocate those funds, it's going to be hard for teenagers. They want to blow everything, but we have to put that corrective behavior in place at this stage. Two, they need to know the real cost of life. And in our increasingly cashless society, it makes us hard for children to understand the true cost of living because all we're doing is swiping their credit card. And I recommend that you take the time to walk your children through your financial transactions. Let them know you're paying so much for a bond, so much on rent, so much on a car. They're at a curious age, right? They're always asking questions, and preempt those questions and share that information with them. Let them know what the cost of petrol is. Let them know what the cost of maintaining a home is. Having a child watch you pay the bills can also help show the importance of living within your means. So include your teens in the paying process, in the billing process of your home. Give them a stack of money. Let them go and pay the lights. Let them go pay the water. Let them realize how much this actually costs. Lesson 3, they got to know about taxes, especially for those teenagers that are wrapping up matric this year. They're going to the workforce. They're going into university. They need to know about taxes. And I know with kids these days, if they're in university, they're not really paying any taxes if they're not earning an income. But it's something that university kids need to keep at the back of their head. And kids that are going into the workforce, they need to know this. All right? They need to know, as soon as you turn 18, you got to get a tax number. When you start working, you got to get UIF, the various kind of protections that every employer should have in place. For example, retrenchment protection. I mean, with the jobs bloodbath in South Africa, big companies are phasing out retrenchment protection, and it barely goes noticed by anybody. But I've received notices from companies that I work with. Two major companies in 2020 pulled retrenchment protection because it's just not feasible, because there's so many people being retrenched. Lesson number 4, they got to know the difference. Again, for the older teens, they got to know the difference between good and bad debt. And a lot of the time, we find people going to the workforce. Okay, they got their first salary. It might not be much, but it's a lot. I mean, especially if you never had a salary before, and to get a decent sized paycheck, it can be overwhelming. And then you're racking up credit, you're opening a consumer account somewhere, credit cards, and you don't have the skill or the know-how to manage this debt. And school leavers especially need to know the difference between good and bad debt. Now, debt is necessary. It's part of adulthood. But parents should teach their teens on how to distinguish between good and bad. And with good and bad debt as well. So money borrowed at a relatively low interest rate helps you grow wealth over the long run. Like when you buy a house on a bond, it is considered as good debt. High interest consumer debt is the bad kind, and we find the school leavers I dive head first into high interest consumer debt. If you borrow money on your credit card, that's high interest consumer debt, and that needs to stop. So those are the 4 lessons that your teen needs to know about money. And if you're looking for a tool to start teaching your kids about budgeting and managing money, you can download my free tool that I use with my younger kids. You can go to www.financiallyfabulousfemales.com/money savvy kids. All right. And when you go there, you're going to get a free money management tool. It's a series of Excel worksheets that you can print, you can download, and it will just show you how to do a basic money allocation when it comes to saving, when it comes to investing, and when it comes to spending. All right. So thanks for joining me today on another episode of the Wealth Nation podcast. I'll chat to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to visit our website at www.financiallyfabulousfemales.com and sign up for our free investment masterclass.